What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 2 of my rom-com review series. This time, we're going to be talking about the 2006 romantic comedy She's the Man, directed by Andy Fickman and starring Amanda Bynes and Channing Tatum.
So, what'd you think of the movie?
Overall, the movie was pretty mediocre. It was extremely cheesy with bad acting and writing, but it had a few funny moments that I enjoyed.
But what was the movie about?
She's the Man primarily follows Amanda Bynes' character, Viola Hastings, a student at Cornwall High School. When the girls' soccer team gets cut, she asks to try out for the boys' team, but is promptly rejected by the coach and the other players, including her boyfriend, who she proceeds to dump. Meanwhile, her twin brother Sebastian enrolls at Illyria High School, but skips town for 2 weeks in order to play music with his band in London. Wanting to prove that she is good enough to play for the boys' team, Viola takes her brother's place while he is away and tries out for the Illyria soccer team. While there, she pretends to be a boy and rooms with Channing Tatum's character, Duke Orsino. At first, Viola is considered a complete loser, but after assimilating more with the boys, she bonds with Duke and he coaches her to improve her soccer skills while she sets him up with his crush Olivia. Over the next couple of weeks, Viola continues to juggle her responsibilities as Viola and her charade as Sebastian. Somewhere between all the shenanigans, there's a carnival where Duke and Viola kiss and she falls in love with him. Then, the night before the Cornwall Illyria soccer game, the real Sebastian Hastings gets back from London and Duke sees him kiss Olivia. Thinking that Viola betrayed him, she and Duke have a big fight and he kicks her out of the room for the night. The next day, Viola oversleeps and misses the first half of the soccer game while the real Sebastian plays terribly. A bunch of random stuff happens where Viola reveals her identity to everyone and Illyria ends up beating Cornwall. Although Duke is hurt by Viola's deception, she still invites him to her debutante ball, but he does not respond. The night of the ball, Viola is prepared to attend without a date until Duke shows up last minute and they make up.
How was the story?
In my opinion, the story was pretty terrible. The premise of Viola pretending to be a boy is pretty cool. Apparently it was based off of a Shakespeare play or something, but the way in which they executed the story was predictable and cringe. I mean, you could basically tell how the rest of the movie was going to play out based off of her first day at Illyria High School. Although the plot was bad overall, there were a few highlights in the movie that I thought were pretty decent. The restaurant scene where Viola's friends help her act cool played out well, and the carnival scene was a clever way to spark Viola and Duke's relationship while still being entertaining to watch. In general, Viola pretending to be a boy was probably the best part of the movie, but the actual romance and soccer plots were very underdeveloped and boring. The romance wasn't even introduced until halfway into the movie, and even then, Duke and Viola only interacted once in a guy-girl scenario. I know you could argue that the relationship grew while Viola was pretending to be a guy, but at the same time, Duke didn't know who Viola was and was actively pursuing a different girl. So basically, the audience is just expected to accept that Duke and Viola like each other because they're the main characters. The soccer plot was also pretty boring to watch because of its predictability. There was just no sense of suspense or satisfaction when Illyria beat Cornwall in the climax of the movie. While these types of plots are usually commonplace in Hollywood movies, the journey that the protagonist takes to achieve his or her goals is usually more documented, so the audience can actually feel a sense of progression and actually become invested in the protagonist's efforts. This is unfortunately not the case in She's the Man. Instead, the movie spends a few throwaway scenes showing how Viola has improved her soccer skills, and then the climax arrives without the viewers feeling any sense of connection to the obstacles that she has had to overcome in order to reach her goals. The resolution of the ending was awful as well. The soccer game interruption when Viola proved their identities was just really weird, and I don't even know what Duke was trying to say when he was quoting the coach.
Be not afraid of greatness. Some are born great. Some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them.
Like, what does that even have to do with the situation? As a side note, the soccer cinematography and quote-unquote action scenes were also extremely cringe. Perhaps a reason why the story was such a mess was because it was trying to include too many things in one movie. You had Viola pretending to be a guy, but then you also had a romance involved and a character arc about how she's trying to prove that she's a good soccer player. Personally, I think if the movie only focused on her pretending to be a guy, then it would have been a better and more conclusive story. Overall though, She's the Man gets a 3 out of 10 in the stories category because it had a good premise, but a terrible execution.
But was it at least funny?
Yes, I found the movie quite funny for the most part. Viola pretending to be a guy was pretty hilarious and led to some awesome moments. The tampon nosebleed scene and its callback were pretty great. The soccer ball shot was also funny just because of her over-the-top exaggeration. And Viola's terrible guy voice was so bad, it was funny. I don't really know if it was on purpose or not, but I enjoyed it. On the other hand though, the movie also had a significant amount of humor that just didn't work. The shirt lifting and pants dropping soccer scene was just so badly executed, and you also had phrases like 1-800-BIATCH that make me question why I'm even watching it in the first place. Viola and Duke's interactions in general were also pretty dull, except for the Gouda cheese part, which was awesome. Overall though, the humor in She's the Man is above average, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10 in this category.
Did you like the characters?
Not really. I just didn't care for them. Most of the background characters were either really annoying or just didn't do anything for the movie. Duke and Viola's friends are basically irrelevant, and other side characters like Viola's parents or the dorm RA guy just get in the way of the movie. Two side characters that I did like, however, were the headmaster and Olivia. I don't really know how other people feel about the headmaster character, but I thought his mentoring was pretty funny and added some nice comedic moments without getting in the way of the plot too much. I also liked Viola's interactions with Olivia. The dramatic irony of Olivia liking Viola as a guy was quite funny and executed well for the most part. As for the main characters, Duke Orsino was pretty terrible. I hate to say this, but Channing Tatum really let me down. He was decent in the comedic parts, but there was just no nuance in the other aspects of his acting. Duke and Viola's chemistry was also just abysmal. As roommates, they had a few good moments, like the cheese scene, but I just couldn't really buy them as being an actual couple. Duke's character is also problematic because of his inconsistency and lack of personality. At first, he's made out to be a typical jock, but then when the plot demands it, he suddenly becomes a shy, wholesome softie. That's not to say that there's something wrong with a character changing throughout a movie, but in the case of Duke, his personality shift is just so jarring and sudden. In my opinion, a realistic character transformation is subtle and built up over time, or the result of a revelation or life-altering event. In the case of Duke, however, the movie writes a character transformation without providing any justification as to why Duke would actually change his mindset. Moving on to Viola, I thought she was decent in the movie. Amanda Bynes' performance as a guy was well done in my opinion. It was extremely exaggerated, but at the same time, it was a believable representation of what girls think guys act like. As a girl, however, Viola was just boring. The movie spent so much time showing Viola as a guy that they didn't really develop her actual character. The only moments where Viola is actually Viola are in the opening scene and the carnival scene. And in both of these cases, she's not really explored as a character, but instead, these scenes are only used to drive the story forward. Overall, She's the Man gets a 3 out of 10 in terms of characters.
Did it try something new?
I want to say yes, but I don't think I can. Although the concept of Viola pretending to be a man is unique on its own, the rest of the story is not. The romance and soccer plots were completely predictable and unoriginal, and the writing itself was filled with many cliches and corny lines. Thus, the movie's uniqueness simply comes down to the premise of the movie. It was a great idea to base the movie off of a Shakespeare play, but they just did it so badly. There was just no nuance involved in the storytelling, and instead relied on cheesy romantic comedy tropes. If you're really looking for a well-made Shakespeare romantic comedy, then the film 10 Things I Hate About You is a great Shakespeare adaptation. But overall, She's the Man gets a 4 out of 10 in terms of uniqueness.
So, should I watch the movie?
Averaging out the scores in all 4 categories, She's the Man gets a 4 out of 10. This movie can basically be summed up as a cool idea, but ruined by bad acting, writing, and general execution. If you're under the age of 13, then your mind might be blown away by this movie, but otherwise I wouldn't bother watching it. Anyway, if you've stuck around this long already, then let me know what you thought of the movie down in the comment sections below, and what movies you want me to review next. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye.